Reimagining Success, episode 251. You're listening to the Reimagining Success podcast, where we help you design a business and a life that allows you freedom from the 9 to 5. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg, ex-corporate good girl, now a business mentor and coach, author, mum of 2, and I'm here to help you create more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment. Now let's get started with redefining success outside of the 9 to 5. Hello there, welcome back. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg, and we're talking your PB is your CV, as I've come up with. Now, PB, I think, is personal best in kind of Olympic running and so on terms. But for me, PB is personal brand. So I hope you share that acronym with me. But anyway, today's message is that your personal brand is actually your new CV for a number of reasons, right? So let's dive in. So CVs, as we know, have been for a long time the way in which we apply to jobs. That was the first thing I did. I remember coming out of university. I mean, my education and so on took up the whole, big font. We had no work experience really. Everything you did, every award you got at high school and so on would be on there, right? And that would be really important, ironically, even though you had no work experience. Then I'm trying to think when I then was applying to... I sort of half-heartedly applied to some jobs actually after I quit my job back in 2013, 2014, before I spontaneously decided to start my business. And then I'd been doing certain things, and of course it was very consistent, but the work experience was very different to my university degree. Depending on where I wanted to go, I was trying to, sorry, I'm babbling, this is not really the point of today, but I was going to say my education was in philosophy, politics, economics, international relations, and so on. I wanted to work at the UN. So obviously when I was applying to the UN and NGOs, I positioned it a certain way, and then I actually ended up in Procter & Gamble, which is how I, started my corporate marketing career. And then after that, again, I was applying to sort of similar jobs within digital marketing, I think via a few recruiters, and then also myself directly, positioning really that digital expertise, but trying to get into a different industry, say movies and chocolate and coffee, I believe, were the 3 that I was working on. So there you go. Since then, funnily enough, one of my clients who I've done workshops with suddenly asked me for my GCSE results and things, which I found hilarious. But luckily, I've got pretty good GCSE results. GCSE, by the way, if you're international, is the exams we do at school when I was 15 at the time. And then we do A-levels, although I did the International Baccalaureate and so on. Who knew this would be a walk down memory lane? Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for indulging my little childhood memories here. But that's sort of CVs have kind of been there for me always. When I now have had my own business for 10 years, it would be interesting actually. I almost want to search CV. I might do it as I talk to you to see what my last version is, because I really haven't. I don't know how I'd possibly find that on my computer, so bear with me. The point is, it's been a very long time since I updated my CV. And in fact, when this, here we go, LinkedIn. When this agency asked me for my CV, what I did was exported my LinkedIn, because I'm like, look, I don't have a CV. Here you go, here's my LinkedIn. So that's my sort of 2023 CV. And the fact that I can't even find my CV tells you how long since I wrote it. What's this one? Could that be a CV? Probably not. There you go. Actor CV. I've got that. That's a topic for another day. So CVs for me have totally lost their importance because running my own business is completely meaningless. What's interesting is if you're kind of freelancing and pitching and proposing and so on, that there's, rather than the chronological CV, here we go, February 13. What shall we find? Rather than the chronological CV that sort of a traditional employee would have, you could have more of a thematic CV. So that's a creative way of doing it. So I'm looking here. Yeah, I've got my creative digital marketing professional with extensive experience in successfully building brands in the consumer goods industry following an international postgraduate education. And then I have all my Procter & Gamble roles filling up a whole page. And then I have digital marketing consultant and coach, blah, blah, blah. Fine. So that's the last time I updated it. There you go. What did I say? February 2013. But that is not the point of today, because the point is that as irrelevant the CV is for me, as the CV is for me, I would argue that it is for you too. And although I know that most of you are now, working for yourselves or certainly going that way, I would argue that the same thing applies if you're planning on staying within corporate. So your PB is your CV, because the CV is just not a way in which you can bring to life your expertise and experience. Now, my personal experience of this, when I was working in one of my consulting contracts, the story that always comes to mind for me was we had about 200 applicants for a role. I interviewed them, I chose the top one, recommended them, and instead it went, due to an organizational restructuring, to an internal person who had no experience at all in that area, and so on, right? So none of those 200 people, including the really good ones, were given the role. So if you're the applicant there, how on earth are you supposed to get past the automation that now has been reading CVs for a long time, right? Especially, and this is the case for many of my clients, if you're moving into a new industry, you probably don't have the typical profile. So you're not going to have the keywords and the experience that the typical automation is going to be looking for. So that's been the case for a long time. Cover letters, I've seen controversial posts on LinkedIn that say that they're dead since a long time too, right? And not only does AI read CVs and cover letters now, they also write them, because as you will have experienced and as we've talked about here on the podcast, ChatGPT, Bard, all these AI tools now are even writing CVs and cover letters, right? So I think I predict, and I rarely predict things as I'm not quite a futurist, but I would say that it's very likely that CVs are going to lose their power going forward. So my philosophy on this, I think, will become all the more important. Again, as a business owner especially, it's not about your CV, it's not about your qualifications and certifications, it's about what you stand for and above all the value you bring. So again, briefly, even if you are applying to jobs and so on, although I don't necessarily help people as kind of a career coach in finding the next role, I always advise that you build your personal brand, your network, you have conversations with people, you put out content and so on. Hopefully your current employer is forward thinking enough to understand that that's important for you as individuals and that has a positive effect on their company as well. But you're building your brand. My massive pet peeve is when people in their LinkedIn have just their job title at that company and then their whole about summary is just about that company. What if you get made redundant? What if you change company? Your about is not the, bio of like the Wikipedia entry for Procter & Gamble, right? Let's say. You have so much more than that. And in fact, LinkedIn shouldn't even be your CV anyway. But again, that's another topic. I feel like this is a ranting episode, so apologies. I'm getting to the point here. In that scenario, when there are the 200 applicants plus in a market where, there are a lot of people applying for jobs and so on, there are lots of redundancies perhaps in your industry and so on, you have to go beyond, it doesn't matter that you've sent out 200 CVs. They're all then kind of copy paste, right? You may even have made the mistake of putting the wrong company in there. You will have fine. You feel like you've done something. You've applied half-heartedly to lots of jobs, but you're not going to get them. Let's be honest, because you haven't really researched them. You're not passionate about them. You don't really want them, and you're just one of a faceless crowd of people. So sorry to be, the bearer of bad news. However, if you are known in your industry as someone who knows things, as a subject matter expert who creates content, who connects with people, who, you don't have to be famous. We're not talking celebrity influencer here, but we're talking you really have that profile, then it's going to be such a better platform for you to open up opportunities, whether internally in your organization, in fact, externally in other organizations, other industries, other sectors, and certainly above all, of course, when you're working for yourself. So the key questions I want you to think about are, what value do you bring? So what's your value proposition? And I have a few questions for you. And of course, you can stop this and you can journal and you can think about it. But this is not so much a workshop session today as just prompting you, poking you, nudging you to think about this if you haven't already. Questions like, what is it you do? And we talked about niching last week. And by the way, if you missed the workshop, you can get the recording at onestepoutside.com/niche. So what is it you do? Why do you do it? That big why is so important, right? Your bigger kind of purpose, your reasons for doing the work you do. What is it you care about in the world? And how do you do it? What makes you so unique? What do you do differently to other people, right? What's your superpower, as some people call it, if you like that, or your particular quirk or flair, right? So what do you do? Why do you do it? How do you do it? But even more philosophically, who are you? That's a big question, right? But who are you? Beyond those lines and bullet points of your achievements on a CV, what's the red thread through those experiences? What's the story you want to tell? What do you know? What have you done? Because those are important questions, right? So what have you experienced? And that could be personal experiences as much as it could be professional. It could be gap years and childcare and, charitable foundations you've set up, or volunteering or anything like that, hobbies and all sorts. So who are you? What have you done? What experience do you have? What do you know? And what do you stand for? And these are big questions, so I don't expect you to have answers today. But this is the kind of work that you want to be doing. Again, whether you're planning on quitting your job, you've already quit, definitely you need to be doing this work as a business owner, as an expert, as a solopreneur. But even if you're, for now, pretty happy in my job, it's pretty important to get clear on these pieces. For salary increases, promotions, internal opportunities, having that image within the company and so on, right? So important. We'll talk actually about the sort of different levels of personal brand progression next week, and the concept of pie, apple pie, crumble, I don't know. No, pie, P-I-E. So really, really important. Your PB is your CV, your personal brand, and why not your personal best is your CV, right? I cannot overemphasize this enough. I can't emphasize this enough. It's so powerful. I know it feels a bit, but as I always say, you've got a personal brand whether you want to or not. So let's curate it. Let's, make sure it's telling the world what you want it to tell. And really, that starts with you getting clear on who you are and what you stand for. Hope that was a valuable episode. Look forward to your thoughts on this one, and I will see you next week for the 5 levels of personal brand progression. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Reimagining Success with Anna Lundberg. I'm sure you know someone, a friend, a colleague, who could also benefit from this podcast. I'd love for you to share the podcast or maybe your favourite episode with them so that they can listen too. Thank you so much for your support.